And good morning, everybody. We're live. Congratulations. You have made it through the week. Another amazing week of food safety, food quality, putting all the food on the tables of everyone around the world, and everyone then trusts and appreciates it for being safe and nutritious and wholesome. And a lot of times, as you know, working in food safety and quality, it's a thankless job. But Jill, Tia, and I are here today to say thanks. We appreciate all that you do to make sure that that happens. If you're new, pull up a chair. This is the Food Safety Chat Live. And every week at this time at 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, we live stream on LinkedIn and YouTube, and we have a conversation with you around food safety. And as you'll notice, if you're a regular on the show, this is a conversation. And it is meant to be interactive. It is meant to be shared because food safety, not a point of competition. And the audience in this show, as Jill and Tia know very well, is as much a part of this as we are, which is super cool. And we appreciate all that everybody does. And so people are starting to file in here. So Sean and Tim are here. Good morning, gentlemen. And of course, if you do anything in food safety, you know the two ladies that are joining me here today, Jill and Tia with Catalyst Food Leaders. How are you guys doing today?
Hello. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, well, we're doing good. And thank you for having us. Like, we love being a guest on here, and we love all the guests that you bring on. You've got such a great variety, and everyone's so interactive here in the audience. So thanks to you and to the audience for being here.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Duncan's here and Cheryl. Yeah, it's always nice. It's like visiting with friends every week and having a call and talking with everybody, which is always the best
talking about our favorite topics.
Yep. So we were talking, Tia and I were talking a little bit here before we were getting ready, talking about the weather, of course, right? Mid-January, you're going to talk about the weather. Here in Colorado, it's been super dry, which the ski resorts absolutely hate. There was a small little, we had some snow here on the grass, and then poof, it's gone here already in Loveland. So it's been very dry here, but not for you guys, right?
No. Like I have snow in my backyard yet. I plan to go snowshoeing this weekend.
Oh, fun. We are cold. We're cold. We're not dry, but we're cold.
Yeah,
very cold. But I shouldn't say that because we've been getting into the 50s over the last 3 days. And that's very different than how it's been for the last couple of weeks. So we're having
reporting in the Nashville area. Nice there. So nice. How's the weather in England, Duncan? Hopefully nice out there. Hopefully not too. Oh,
well, he says he wants to close our eyes and talk about weather.
He's daydreaming.
I think that may be misinformation there. Yeah. Cheryl's in the Chicago area, so they've been having that too. So as we love to do here on Fridays, everyone please join us for a drink of your favorite beverage on this Friday. Cheers.
Cheers.
Nice logoed product there, Tia. Very nice. Very nice.
It is actually my favorite water bottle. It is.
That's
it's our Catalyst water bottle. It's our old logo. So you all saw last year we switched up our logo, but it's one of my favorite ones. Thank you, Jill.
Nice.
She found it.
Size, cleanable, lockable. So the basics.
Okie dokie. Are you guys ready for the dad joke of the week?
Yeah, what's your joke for today?
And it's kind of an interesting one, really, because I mean, Joel, I was just watching the news, and so I was, you can see different stuff on the internet. And I saw that in Minnesota, that the local newscasters really, really excited about the weather going into 2026. Had you heard about that?
Not anything unusual yet. Why? What have you heard?
Nothing. Well, I heard that the locals are really happy because summer is going to actually occur on a weekend this year.
That would be fantastic, since it's usually nice during the week when we're everyone's at work, and then rainy on weekends.
Right. Yes.
So
well, you can
I'm holding you to that, forecaster Armentrout.
There you go. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So aren't you glad I didn't? So if you're unfamiliar with Minnesota and kind of that Midwest thing, the Sven and Ollie jokes, right? So I didn't bring any of those out. So it's kind of the equivalent. So I have family in Iowa, so they would tell those about Minnesota. So it's kind of that rivalry thing. It's kind of, I don't know, Jill, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but from my perspective, it's like the Sven and Ollie jokes are kind of like the dumb blonde joke of the Midwest, because
I guess so. I didn't grow up here, so it's not as like part of my core. Since I'm from Wisconsin, I grew up in a Polish area, so we had like the dumb Polak jokes, but same, right? We all have our areas and our things.
Not those crazy Swedes.
That's funny.
Very good. Ufta. Yeah, Jay knows. Yeah, ufta. Yeah, I forgot. That's a good one. So, guys, we got a ton to go over here today. So let's dive in. So, Catalyst, you guys have been very busy with courses, and we'll put a link here at the end as well for your sites that everybody has access to that and some of your upcoming activities that you guys are doing. But as we're preparing for the chat, I wanted to kind of touch base here, and it's been a bit of a stretch since the two of you were on the show. So, how about if we get everybody up to date? What have you been up to?
Ooh. A variety of things. We still are living in culture, org structures, leadership, outcomes, and food safety consulting on the side.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, right? And culture is still such a huge topic within food safety, but within food organizations, trying to figure it out. And honestly, externally, outside of our organizations, things are changing so much. And that means we're trying to speed up, we're trying to shift, we're trying to pivot more than we have in the past. And we are reminding people that we also need to focus on culture, people. So that's what we've been up to.
Yeah, that kind of segues into that next piece of that conversation then too, is, as we all this is a natural time of year to kind of reflect some of the big aha moments you guys had last year. What kind of comes to mind? What bubbles to the top?
What kind of bubbles to the top?
I feel like some of the things that we've been hearing last year, we are, at least from my perspective, Jill, I'll be curious if you agree, but I feel like more people are starting to catch on to the message that leadership plays a huge part into culture. And I won't say that our industry is like, yes, let's invest in leaders and let's go down this route. Right now, I think we're still a little hesitant, right? Still trying to figure out where to invest in. But organizations are getting behind that. I need to invest in my leaders. I need to invest in my people so that my culture will shift. And I would say people are sort of figuring that out when they're in crisis mode, and that's okay. That's where we are right now. But I hope to see more in 2026 and beyond, that people are investing in their people before they're in crisis mode, right? Before something catastrophic happens, right? Before people leave, or before you're in this dire situation that you need to turn things around quickly. We're hearing more of that because people are kind of getting into the chaos. But I would like to see more of that going into 2026, 2027.
Yeah, I agree. I think, from my perspective as well, and we're aligned around this, is, and you hear this more and more in my chats, is risk. And, how an organization manages risk. This is really the big aha for me last year, is we all know, and you guys are hitting the nail on the head with your business, it's the people. Anybody who's worked in quality for any period of time knows that if you go down the path of if someone is doing something on the floor that you don't like as the quality person, and you think that you can write a procedure to fix that, you're in for a whole lot of frustration because procedures don't do things, people do things.
Right.
And I had a good perspective early in my career, and I worked in medical device for 2 years when I first got out of college. And I worked in a clean room, and it was crazy. I did not like it. So that's how I got into food. But the documentation in the medical device world is insane, absolutely insane. And did it make their product better? No, it didn't. The example I would use is I had a 10-page, not joking, a 10-page work instruction on how to make a 35% sugar solution. And people would have to sign off on what I was doing at every single step. And people would have to check the labels against a master label book. And it was just insane. And people are people. And I figured out pretty quickly early on how to skirt the system and get things done quicker. I would fill out paperwork in advance and get signatures on things in advance. But what does it even Right? What does that even do? What does that, because I wanted to get the work done. I'm like, damn it, I've got all this stuff I need to make. The production is coming up and I can't make it because I'm strung up by all this paperwork.
Yeah.
And that's the path we do not want to go down in the food industry. And so I think the keys, to your point, T, are starting to kind of get unlocked around that. We're figuring out now that if we just keep doing more of what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting the same results.
Right.
And we keep seeing these big recalls and big problems. And frankly, a lot of people in our space with food are worried. They're worried about their jobs. They're worried about closures and mergers. And it's a stressful time for sure. And if you can figure out a path forward within your company to break through and move more on the people side of things to help get things done, you're going to be in a really good spot.
Absolutely. There's I'm going to say the cliche, like, how do we, sorry, you're getting feedback from me, aren't you? Hopefully it's not too, is it still there? It's that cliche, the whole, like, how do we move from compliance to commitment? And for so long in food safety, and we've seen this, whether it's regulatory or GFSI or even customers sending more requirements.
Yeah.
You can't lead through paperwork like that.
Right. Yeah.
Like that actually, I would say, slows things down and really is kind of almost a demoralizer for people because it doesn't bring any conversation. It doesn't bring any empathy. It doesn't bring any, just, we're people here working together.
Right.
So the more we're just like, well, follow that SOP. Yeah, we need to do that. But we need to be able to bring these, I hate when we call them soft skills, because these really are critical skills, not soft skills, that are needed for leaders. And especially in this time where we are all feeling this, the more we lean into leadership, the further we're going to go, the more valuable we're going to be for our organizations.
Right.
And the faster we can move. Organizations that invest in their people and ensure that their leaders have the right skills to be able to lead, right? Like Cortland said, leaders leading, right? Yes, right? Organizations that invest in those skills, they see faster movement, and not just faster movement so product can be on hold later on. And so you have to do all the other things around corrective action, but faster that product is the way that they want it to be at the end. And they're able to move forward, and people don't feel burnt out in the process, right? They don't feel like they've gone through this traumatic event to make food.
Yeah, I'm helping a distribution company right now get certified for Costco. And we've been going through their quality systems and setting things up. And in the beginning phase is number one, you always have to, I refer to it as this, right? You have to gather everything up and just mountains and piles of documentation. And what's fun about it is going through that, to your point, Tia, is what are the things you don't need? And you look at some of this documentation and you're like, okay, well, you already write all this stuff down on this procedure. Why do you need to write it down over here too? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, that's just wasted effort.
Right.
We're going to set up your quality system so they benefit your company, not the auditor.
Yeah.
And they're like, right. And it's like, yeah, okay. And going through that process and helping them understand that the procedures that we create are a tool for getting things done, not the other way around. And we forget that a lot of times. We think that the procedures reign, and they don't.
Yes.
And a good example of this, and this is kind of the paradox I learned early on in my career, is we tend to look at processes by complexity. And the more complex the process, the more documentation we have. The classic example for me is a pasteurizer. Extremely complex piece of machinery in a dairy. And it needs all kinds of things that need to be monitored. Legal requirements need to be met, all kinds of documentation, charts and graphs and flows, and you name it. Do you put the brand new temp employee on that line to run that machine and expect him to read the work instruction? No, of course not. That is stupid. You put your veteran team on those lines. Your most trusted employees are the ones that run the pasteurizer. The lady who's been there in that plant since it opened 20 years ago is the person running that machine. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the person is more important than that experience and their brains. And really, I think that kind of gets to our topic around today is this amorphous term that we've come up with that we're trying to wrestle to the ground in our space, food safety culture. Right?
Yeah.
And you see some groups going down this path of, oh, well, we're going to get together committees and we're going to write a document and we're going to do 2.1.2, right? And list out the checklist of culture. In my opinion, that's not going to work.
No. Well, Bryan, even when you talked about, you said it earlier, we're doing the same things that we have been doing. We're doing what we know, right? Like we're doing what we've been trained to do, what we've been doing throughout our careers. We really don't focus on leadership and these skills to be able to influence and communicate and build relationships and leverage those relationships and work together and resolve conflict. But we don't spend any time on those things. So we go back to, how do we write this procedure? Or, we just need to write in our gaps, right? Or we need to develop another process, or we need to do all the technical work. And you might need to do some of those things. But when we forget that there's going to be a person that's running this, we run into the situation that our documentation is great, right? We have all the systems around it is great. And then it stalls because no one is there to actually do the work. No one's there to actually influence.
Yeah. And I think that if you have the belief that the documentation is going to take care of it, it means that you don't trust the people.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. And, and it's things that happen even in the little moments. When I think about culture, I've been in the past working with a client who, even when we went out onto the production floor and I was working with one of the assistant managers and they're like, you're the first quality person to come out here and ask us what's working well? Like, how's my team doing with you? Like, are you getting the support you need? And I was like, what do you mean I'm the first one? You've had other people out here. Nope, you're the only one who's come out to ask those type of questions to see how we are working together.
Exactly. Because if the head of production in the facility and the quality manager don't get along, you're going to have it's going to spill over into everything.
Right.
Now, Cortland makes a good point here, right? So this is your evidence in court, 100% right. And that's why you need a strong quality leader to think about these things,
right?
And put together procedures. Many a company on the inverse side of what Cortland is saying here have hung themselves with their documentation because you have bad documentation. And a good lawyer, Bill Marler, whoever, is going to absolutely eviscerate you on the stand.
Right. Yeah.
And that's one of the things Cortland brings up. And thank you for that, Cortland. That's one of the things, especially in the food safety realm. Food quality, always remember, from a jurisdictional standpoint, FDA does not have access to that information for quality. Food safety, everything for food safety they have access to. You need to be able to write a recording form or a procedure and have it be self-contained. It needs to have the limits. It needs to have the standards. It needs to have the corrective actions that were followed up on that, right? Like I preach about here all the time. Plan, do, check, act, right? What did you do? Yeah. How did you do it? How do you know it was right? And if it didn't go right, how did you get that back on track?
Right.
Those need to be self-contained. And what Cortland just said, there's one of my acid tests for senior leadership in quality in companies is if you're explaining this to a jury who have no idea what you do, is this going to speak for itself?
Right.
Because it has
yeah.
to.
And when you think about documentation, Cortland, I love your comment because like we live in this space, right? In food safety and quality, making sure that if it's not documented, it didn't happen. That's like one of our models, right? Like if it's not documented, we don't know if it happened. You probably have forgotten that it happened if we're talking about something that happened a year ago or 2 years ago. But sometimes, and I'm working with this organization now that their documentation is all about pH and their pH numbers look great. But then they had an issue and now it seems like, are these pH numbers actually correct? Or is there a culture people issue that's going on? Right? Documentation, people know what to do. People can say when they do their checks, people can, right? Like they know the procedures, but do they understand what's behind this documentation and why it's important? Not just the number that we want, but what's important. And what do they do if it's wrong? What do they do if they're out of spec? And that's the piece, that's the people piece, right? And, you know, it's these things that's starting to pop up with this client that we have, where it's like, ooh, documentation might not actually be trustworthy. Or, oh, we have a low weight tote. What happened here? You go back and talk to people. Oh yeah, I noticed that it was a little underweight. This happened a month ago, but no one said anything about it, right? Even the person that's responsible don't feel like they necessarily have the authority. That's where the people come into play. You can have the best written documentation. You can actually have it written down and it looks perfect. But if you're not actually checking in on your people, having conversations, building the people side of things, your documentation might not be as strong as what you think it is. It might not be telling you what you need to know when it comes to food safety culture, when it comes to your food safety programs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would say, and think about all the companies in this position. How many have GFSI certification and they're like, yep, we get 95s and 98s and 99s and everybody's cheering. Yeah. And yet they're like, we're a train wreck over here.
Yes.
That space is culture.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is culture.
And it's a complaint we see quite often in what we do in quality and food safety is, I have all the responsibility, but I have no authority.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And part of that in some ways is self-inflicted in my viewpoint, right? It's like, it's easier sometimes to throw up your hands and say, I can't do anything. It's not my fault. Right?
Yeah, well, that's also one of those signs, right? When you give your power away, like what is your role? Like, what have you stepped into? What is the company expecting from you? And how do you step into that conversation to be more effective?
Right. Yeah. Well, and in order for you to say, yes, it's my fault, or yes, I'm a part of this and I want to be a part of the solution, like that takes courage to do, and you have to have the safe space around you to be able to do it, right? In order for people to be able to stand up and be like, ooh, yes, I ruined this $100,000 batch, right? Like it was me. I'm happy to lead, right? Problem solving and all these other type of things, and not feel like something's going to happen to your livelihood. That is culture, right? Yeah. Creating this safe space so that people can do that and feel comfortable doing, and it's encouraged to do that. That's a different mindset, right? That's a different culture. So if you find that people are hiding, right, or don't want to take accountability and saying, nope, not me, I wasn't a part of it. You need to check your culture, right? You need to check, how are we encouraging people to come up? Have you personally, as a leader, said, ooh, my fault, right? Like, I'm going to work to fix it. Have you done that so that they can see what happens when someone owns up to a large mistake, right? Not a small one, not, ooh, I used blue instead of black, pink, right? Like not small things, but bigger things that's impactful to the business. That needs to be seen. And that's within your culture.
And the absolute death of a plant, or any company for that matter, is if it's implicit or direct, is if something goes wrong, to your point, Tia, who do we blame?
Yeah, which is, Duncan just had that comment there. That's why blame always kills culture.
Yes.
Yep. You know, it's a process problem, usually not a people problem. When we have failures. And, you know, yes, sometimes we have to follow that back up, like the whys.
Yeah.
You know, there is an amount of like, how do we as individual leaders help build better processes? And that's why, yes, documentation and processes are important, but if people aren't stepping up to be part of that, the disconnect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And part of what I've been working on as well, too, is to help companies understand that it's food safety culture in the company. You just can't do if corporate feels they're exempt from this and that somehow this culture is some crazy thing that the plants need to do, you're going to fail. And we've seen very large recalls recently, Nate's Pasta, right? Where, okay, the procurement group may think they're doing the right thing by buying and finding a cheaper source of pasta that they can supply all their plants with, this pre-made pasta, save all this time. Yay, look at us. We're going to get our bonuses. But if there's a problem, you're screwed. And I think part of what's being realized out there, and this spills over into other areas too, is we look at our hazard analysis and how we look at things from a food safety standpoint as a static measure, and that it never changes. Well, we buy pasta, and the risk on that, severity and likelihood is medium. Yeah, that's about my guess. And then suppliers change, and we keep that risk the same. No, you have no idea who this new company is that you're buying from is. So you can't visit all your suppliers. Nobody can. And so that's a huge gap that you're looking at in those areas. Corporate has a gigantic impact on your culture, and it's been largely ignored.
Yeah. Just this, I had been talking with a client earlier this week, and they were rolling out some GMP training, and they had this great thing put together, just basic sanitary practices, like and even things like keeping doors closed and, clean clothes and stuff. And I said, great. How did your finance department react to this? And they're like, oh, no, it's not for them. I'm like, do they not walk in some of the same doors, and do they not need to understand some of this? So it's interesting just how we sometimes in our head give this pass to people who aren't directly touching product,
right?
Aren't directly ordering product. And everyone, when we think about if we're going to use the term food safety culture, then really it needs to involve everyone.
Right. It doesn't say QA food safety culture.
No, and it doesn't mean they need to know how to put packaging on and what lot codes need to be, but they need to understand you're working at a food company. We have expectations.
Exactly. And this gets into, and so the comment here, and so where did this go on? Bonuses and recalls. Here we go. Tim mentioned this. Thanks, Tim. Is putting food safety at risk to make a bonus is never acceptable. So a big piece of that is who is measured against recalls. You see it all the time in evaluations for food safety and quality people. It's like, all right, part of your goals is to not have a recall. Okay, great. Isn't that everybody in the company too?
Right, yeah.
Does procurement have that in their objectives? That should be there. If procurement thinks their only objective is to buy stuff cheaper and not be penalized if they cause a recall because of it, that's a big problem. Everybody needs to have those objectives.
Yeah. And Bryan, I like the way that you worded it, where this is a part of company culture, right? And food safety touches everyone. And so, like you said, if it's something this large, like a recall, and you're, saying we don't want any recalls, and that's important to this organization, which it should be for all food organizations, right? That's a company goal. So understanding how each of the functions should understand how could they contribute, right, to a recall, and how do we make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah. And I think even, I know we'll probably dive into this even more, but, if our goal as a company is 0 recalls, well, obviously that is a very lagging metric. So what are the things we need to think about way further in the process? Because I think too often we also say, have those type of things, and well, great, that we are way past that in some of these leading metrics that we could be having.
Yeah, I mean, we hear it all the time with food safety culture, right? Recalls, or love this, surveys, assessments, right? All of that, that's lag metrics, right? Something has happened in order for the recall to happen, or in order for your survey assessment results to be good or bad, right? Like if you are, and we tell clients this all the time, if you have poor engagement scores, most likely people have been feeling like this for years before it shows up on your engagement score. And if you haven't been working on that through the years, and now it's here on your engagement score, it's going to take some time in order for you to move that shit.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, I'm not laughing at you, T. I'm laughing at Duncan's comment. 0 recalls isn't a lagging metrics. It's an incredibly low bar.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. But I think it goes back to even, Bryan, when you talked about supply chain. Like maybe one of their metrics is something like, lowering how many emergency supplies we had to bring in, or unapproved suppliers that needed quick, approval, conditional approval. Those are the type of things when I think about 0 recalls, where how do we get more granular for these groups that are in, directly food safety function, or even supporting food safety everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I had a funny analogy that's kind of popped in my head. I don't know if this works or not yet, but having that standard of no recalls is like saying in your personal life, my goal is not to have an auto wreck. I'm not going to get in a serious crash and cause a fatality. And that's your only metric. And you drive around at 90 miles an hour and you squeal around corners and you don't
Right, exactly.
you run red
Crappy
lights.
tires.
And
Yes.
then you're surprised that you have a wreck. And you're like, right?
I didn't see that coming.
Right.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem. And on that metric piece of this, Jill, you're 100% right, is we're really good in quality and food safety at reporting on what happened last month.
Yeah.
Who cares? What should we be worried about next month?
Right.
I have some environmental hits that I'm worried about. We're seeing complaints that go up in these particular areas. Maintenance is behind on some of their PM activities. Sanitation is reporting that they're having more dirty equipment and damage. What are those things that the organization needs to be focusing on to improve? And everything to that point, and Valenti is saying it here too, right, is the horse is out of the barn at that point.
Right.
What good are we providing the organization of essentially saying, I told you so at that point?
Right.
That's not productive.
And many times organizations that are only tracking, lagging metrics like recalls, right, audit scores, engagement scores, once they get something that they don't like, they don't understand it, right? They don't understand, how do we get to this place that we're having this major recall, right? Or that people are leaving the organization, or right, that we're having these things pop up. How did we get here? And it's because they've missed all the leading lights that's blinking at them, right? They just don't know that it's there because that's not what they've been focused on. And it's when we go into organizations and help them with their culture, and we start with, let's have conversations. Sometimes I think it's a little like, wait, what? You want to have conversations? We have all these programs, all these things that we need to do. We need all these metrics need to come. But if you don't first start with your people and understand where they are, understand where is this coming from, right? What should we be measuring to understand some of these like lag metrics? It doesn't mean we shouldn't track lag metrics, right? Like we do want to track if we have any recalls. We do want to track these things, but they're so far away that when you actually look at the source, right? When we look at our facilities, when we look at people that's doing the work, if we're not actually having conversations with them, we're not going to be able to choose the right metrics, right? We're not going to be able to understand our systems, because many of us that's responsible, right, for, some of these metrics, or maybe it's accountable for some of these metrics, we're not actually the ones doing the work, right? Like I haven't done anything to cause a recall because I don't work directly with the product, right? Even though I have probably many more conversations around recalls and what can cause recalls than anyone else. So the people that's there, right, those are the conversations we need to have. And a lot of times we don't know how to have those conversations.
Yeah, super important point. So you can learn more in an organization reading the food safety plan versus sitting down with somebody and talking about it and have them say, yeah, we've got that documentation, Tia, I know what you're saying, but we really don't do that. Oh, you've learned something really, really important.
Exactly.
And Sean brings up a good point. Oops, wrong one here. Everything's
winning every day. That's what we hope for, Duncan.
That's what we want.
So I have not found any company that shares the quality KPIs with the rest of the team, right?
Wow.
That's pretty common. And this is, if we go down that same path, food safety or culture will fail as well. It's too abstract. It doesn't link up with what people actually do. And importantly, and I have people on this show, Duncan, for example, people who come from a business side, Dustin Finkel as well. And you have to translate this information into terms they understand. If you go to the CEO of the company and say, oh, well, our KPI metric associated with the complaint per million ratio is trending high relative to the SPC graph chart. Right?
You lost me back.
My mind is gone, right? Gone.
Yeah.
It needs to be, hey, boss, we got a problem. Why? What's going on? Our consumers are pissed. Whoa, right? Now the CEO's like, all right, we have a risk now of losing revenue. We have a risk of losing market share. This is gonna potentially impact our new product launch. Tell me more, Bryan. What's going on? Speak their language. Get out of your box.
Yeah, even something close to the process. Like one of my pet peeves lately is holds. Like, oh, we have so many holds, and I'm like, yeah, but nobody cares. Like, if you're taking care of them, just take care of them, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now, if you start putting dollars on how much product is held up and not able to be released, that is slowing up orders, that is slowing up production. Now we have something to talk about and something to get awareness from others.
Well, and even that term, we have a quality hold. No, we don't. We have an operational failure hold.
Whatever kind of hold it is, if product isn't moving, it's not good.
It's not good, right?
And wanting to assign it, like you said, to a function doesn't matter. Like this is a good indication of culture. We haven't accepted that we are doing this together.
Yeah. Yes.
And behind the scenes, you'll often hear that, right? Which is, why did we short orders this week on the short order report? Oh, because quality put stuff on hold. Oh. You want to get me jumping on somebody? That's exactly how you do it. So part of this is
these measurements are work. Like we need to do more work and put more product on hold. I think not. So
do we really want to be making more garbage? No. How about not? Let's not make it in the first place. How about that?
Right. Exactly. Root cause.
Yeah. So part of this is, and a warning around this, of course, is, as we're talking about here, you need to measure, but part of this as well is be very careful what you measure. Because to Jill's point, if you say our objective in the organization and the quality group in particular is not to have a recall, okay, they're going to do everything they can to avoid that metric. So, okay, well, we're not going to put the product on hold. That product that is borderline could be maybe a withdrawal. Okay, well, that's not a recall, so I'll keep my bonus, right?
Right. Yeah.
Super careful. If you say, for example, another good one is in environmental monitoring. My goal in environmental monitoring is to be 100% compliant. Well, guess what you're going to get? Right? You're going to get technicians that are going out with their swabs and going, boop, right?
Yeah.
And sampling the same spot every single time. And when you open the sample Whirlpack bag, it reeks of sanitizer. Right? You're going to get, to Jill's point, you're going to get false information that lets you think that you're okay, but you're really not.
Yeah.
And that's when we get surprised.
Yeah. Bryan, you're absolutely right. And you're hitting on the reward systems, right? Like we need reward systems. People need to be rewarded, but what are you rewarding? Ask yourself that. And in your organization, what are you rewarding, either formally or informally, right? Where do you give praise? Where do you say, yes, great job. Yes, great job. We didn't find any environmental positives this month. Is that the good job, or it's a good job we went out and we looked for it?
Yeah. And I'll add to that, Tia. It's what behaviors are we rewarding? And I go back to my little GMP thing, like, oh my gosh, we're rewarding people. Like I saw someone we find things and then we give them 30 days to fix things. And then we'll reward them behavior if they get it done. And I'm like, we're going to reward them for being reactive? Like, I get that we're fixing it, but like, how are we going to reward them to be proactive?
Right.
So, but even just pausing and reframing, like, that moment of what does this metric, what behavior does this metric reward?
Yes.
Does that represent who we want to be as a company?
And that's where we start when we think about like metrics anyway, right? Like how do you want to show up as an organization, right? How do you want your people, right? Their behaviors. How do you want them to behave? How do you want them to show up at work? That's where you start and think about how do you know that they're showing up this way? Yes.
And giving them an opportunity to receive praise. So a particular example I'm thinking of is in a past company, I had so sanitation was during the night shifts, and I had a technician, luckily, who worked on the night shift with the sanitation crew. And she was a pit bull. 5 foot tall Filipino lady, just absolutely kicked ass. I loved her. And they developed a game between the lab and the sanitation crew, because at the end of this shift, sanitation then would bring her out on the floor and she would do her inspection. And she would say, she would be like, tear apart that pump. I want to see the pump plate. I want to see the lobes. And she would get in there and she would dig. And so it became a game between the two groups of, all right, we're going to clean things so good that she can't find anything. And when she wouldn't find anything, she'd be like, good job. Right? And man, that sanitation crew would beam because they knew that if they could satisfy Rose, that they did a good job. And that feedback mechanism of, right?
Yeah,
and
rewarding
knowing
the right
it meant
behavior.
something.
That is
Right.
culture,
That's
right?
culture.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And she's a huge part of it, right? She's a huge part of that culture. She is leading, right? She's motivating, she's inspiring, right? She's influencing, she's building the relationships. They know who she is. She's not, right? She's not unpredictable. She's all of those things for this group as a leader. That's a really good
And
example.
that didn't organically happen. We had to develop that over time because when I first got there, there was some friction going between the two groups. And so she would wake me up at 2 a.m. and say, Bryan, I'm having this problem. What should I do? What should I do? And after I kind of figured out the pattern, I said, Rose, you have complete authority. Whatever you decide to do it. And I will back you up 100% in the morning when I come in. Don't worry about it. And I gave her that. It's like we were talking about earlier. I gave her the authority. She had the responsibility. I gave her the authority, and she knew that I would take care of her.
Mm-hmm. Bryan, these words, like, I wish we had it up on the screen. It did not happen organically.
No.
People feel like it's just going to happen, right? Oh, why is she not just doing it, right? Why is she not just telling them? Why are they not just doing? It does not happen organically because we are human beings, right? Yes. In this role, we just don't behave that way. Most of us don't. So you have to invest in your people. You told her you have this authority. And then when she made a different decision than you would, right? You had to show up as our leader. You had to stand in that, right? I support you. Let's have a conversation. How would we do it differently? Right? But that support is there. You had to show up in those moments. Otherwise, if you, Bryan, had said, I have your back, and you've gone a couple of months and then, whoops, she made a mistake. And you said, oh, this is your fault, right? Going back to the point, this is your fault. I don't want you making these decisions anymore, right? We need to take away this, right? Take away your power instead of empowering you, right? And you just flipped a 180. What do you think that would have done to the culture? Right. Not just to her, but to other people that see what's happening.
Yeah. Gone. Done. She no longer trusts me. Done. Doesn't matter what I do from that point forward.
But that can be really difficult. Like what you just described can be really difficult for leaders to actually do. We may verbalize it and say, oh, yep, you do that. But to actually transfer that power to your team member and say, I have got your back, and demonstrate that when really shit hits the fan. That's where you have to stand in that and be like, yep, I back you.
And
100%.
That's hard.
It doesn't mean we're going to do it the same way next time, but I back you in this one. I'm not going to put you on a corrective action plan or, that's the stuff that people worry about. Is my job at stake? And so they don't want to accept power.
Right. Yeah.
So you really, as a leader, have to read these situations on how do I responsibly transfer that so that they can fully do their job. And I'm here to support them.
And to our earlier point, is there a procedure I could have written to allow that to occur? No. Right? Right. All right, Rose, here's your new procedure on your authority and the, no. How stupid is that? That doesn't work. Another good example from that plan, and I think this is kind of our theme of observing people. I had a really good lab manager, and Denise worked like a dog. She worked super hard. And I noticed after a while what she would do is, so technicians would go on break and then she would jump in the lab and cover for them. Or people would go on vacation in the lab and then so she would do the bench work and stuff like this. She thought she was doing the right thing. And I started talking with her about it. I'm like, well, why do you do this? Well, we got to cover and stuff. I'm like, no. What you're doing is this. When you do this, all I have is an expensive lab technician. I don't have the lab manager. I need the lab manager because that's what I'm paying you for. If we need to bring in temps to cover for people, if we need to cross-train people to come in and cover during other shifts, let's figure all that out. Your job is to manage the lab, not be the technician. And she was like,
we need more of that.
Oh, yeah. And then it clicked. And now she was freed up to do the stuff I needed her to do. Questioning documentation on the plant, going out and watching production, making all of that stuff that the lab manager, that's a full-time job. He doesn't need two.
Right, exactly. And you need her to be in the manager role. I mean, I don't know how many times we've had conversations with VPs about this exact thing. Like, we need someone actually being in the VP position, right? We need someone looking at strategy and looking at vision. And we need someone doing that just like you need people doing this.
Mhm.
You know, if you're stepping over here and you're not empowering your team, then no one's doing the other job. Because we feel like we can work all of these hours and we can multitask and we can do this. And you might be working a lot of hours, but you're not doing the jobs well, right? You can't just as human beings, like we're talking about behaviors, we're talking about, right, human nature. Human nature is we cannot do multiple roles well. We can't.
No.
So what's falling? What's being dropped?
It's a good thing to pause. I like, Duncan, how you say like helping a junior person step up versus a senior person step down, you know, and I like to ask when I see this happen, because we've worked with VPs where this does happen, like, what does that give you and what does that give others when you do that?
Right.
Because often it's like, well, I want to be in there and doing stuff and I want to show people like, yep, I still know what I'm doing. And it's like, this isn't about you and your ego.
Right.
And I don't mean that to be crass, but
true.
we need you in the VP role. We have people. You should have people. And if you don't, then help that junior person step up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, that's powerful. Going to that junior person and saying, I'm seeing something in you. I'm going to give you a shot here to step up and take on some new responsibility. You game? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We need people to believe in us before we believe in us sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a very powerful way to say, you can step into this role. Not just that, you know, like, I mean, yeah, when I was young, I was always like, oh yeah, I'm going to climb the ladder and do that role. Honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But right, until you have someone who's like, I actually can see you moving from here to here. Have you thought about that career path or like what you want to do next? It was so amazing to have someone do that for you.
Yeah.
It's easy to look back in retrospect and say, oh, well, you know, I did this. We forget the pain we went through as well. Right?
Yeah.
My first director role, oh my God, right? Yeah, to your point, Jill, you're in this and you're just like, what? Right? And it's just an absolute fire hose and trying to figure this stuff out. But you do, right? It's kind of like I talk about, you know, growth is step changes. It's not a nice even curve. It's periods of intense pain and growth covered by recovery. It's kind of like a good workout.
Right. Yes.
That's how you go.
But like a good workout, right? It's intentional. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, things like to be in this chaos state, right? That's like entropy, right? Like we naturally go towards chaoticness. But in order for us to be aligned, we have to put in work. We have to put in energy, right? It has to be intentional for us to continue to empower people, to step into the unknown, to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. And this gets back to our whole theme for our conversation today is people. Guess what? When you talk with people on your team or in your facility, and the larger facility, the more nice and pretty that bell curve is going to be. Some people are happy doing what they're doing, and that's fine. They have other things going on in their lives. They have kids in hockey. They have the softball games. Their life is good, and they're happy doing what they do. Love it. Perfect. Give them the tools they need to do their job. Right. But there are people who want to advance. There are people who are like, I want to do something new. I want to grow. To Jill's point, I want to explore new career paths. Maybe I want to work in production. Maybe I don't want to be in quality. Maybe I want something else. Those are the people who grow and improve your company. And it's a little bit at the top of that bell curve.
Yeah.
And if you don't help them grow and improve, guess what? They're going to go and improve somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, and I would even be a fan of saying everybody under the bell curve can move and grow and help your company.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Right. One of my other pet peeves besides pizza parties, because I know you guys talked about that, is the 9 box where you rate the top people up here and you make career paths for them and everybody else gets nothing. They get crumbs.
Yeah.
Like if you can harness the power of everyone, and it doesn't mean it all has to, we are looking for everybody to get some more and build and grow.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes your company shift and move further than you ever thought it would versus those 2 or 3 top performers that you want to like fully invest in. Cool. Do that. And don't ignore everybody else.
Right.
Even that squeaky wheel, they're just not in the right spot. With the right leader, they're going to thrive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's where understanding the dynamics is so important. As consultants, we get to go to all kinds of different operations. And a lot of times in the food industry, it's small production facilities in the middle of nowhere. And you see this a lot in Minnesota and Wisconsin, small operations that are making specialty cheddar cheese, and maybe 100 people work there in the area. This is where the people part becomes important because there's more dynamics than just that plant. The people that work in that plant probably went to high school together. They know each other's families, and there's history. And this guy was married to this girl who then divorced him and had, started dating this other guy, and now they don't get along. And you start figuring this stuff out. And if those two guys have a natural animosity toward each other, you need to know that and understand those relationships. No procedure is going to create that. No procedure is going to break through that, but you have to understand it.
And there's always relationships like that in facilities, right? Like, I mean, we know the people we work with, right? After you work with some people for 20 years, right? You have a relationship with them.
It's no reality show going on usually.
I know. I used to joke about that all the time working in a facility. I'm like, this would be an amazing reality TV show, by the way, with all the personal relationships, right? Like this will be amazing.
That's our next venture together. We're gonna tee that up.
Right.
And this is something. So I worked for French food companies for quite a while, and this is something that French executives could not understand. So they would come in and go through HR training, U.S. HR training, sexual harassment, and what have you, and they would just sit in these classes like this, right? And then finally, one guy was like, "This makes no sense," and the instructor was like, "Well, please tell me, what don't you like about this training?" He's like, "Well, in France, you work. You're at the plant, you're at corporate 70, 80 hours a week. It's your life for decades. This is where you meet your spouse." And the executive said, it's like, if you're attracted to a pretty woman at work, you come up to her and say, "Hello, I like you, and I would like to take you on a date." And if she slaps you, that's the end of it. And all the other French executives were like, yeah. And the poor trainer, I'm just watching her, and she's just like, where do I go? Because this is like the CEO and the senior vice presidents of the company, and they're like, "Lady, you make no sense." And it should have been like, it's their culture.
Here. But there's an appropriate way.
Yeah, but I mean, to ignore that reality that you're spending a lot of time with people and getting to know them really well, and it's your family away from home, and things happen.
And that dynamic plays into how people follow processes, how they fill out their documentation, right? It's all connected to people. And we're just there, and we're thinking we're going to do food safety, and we're going, right? We're kind of in our little box, in our little lane. And we don't realize that, hey, someone just had an argument last night when they went to have dinner, and now they're here, and we're trying to roll out this big process, right? And they're mad at each other right now.
They're not talking.
Right? And I have been in those situations where, like, I typically know, right? I like to build relationships, and it does help me do my job. And I like to know people. I'm naturally curious about people. So, like, if I know this information, I'm like, okay, but today we're doing this thing. And it's like, yeah, I can do it. Okay. Let me know if we need to do some switch around, right? Because that's important. That's making sure that you understand them, right? What's important to them, what is going on outside of their lives. I value that too. I know that's important to you. I know we also need to do this today. So let me know how I can help you in this situation, because we need to get this done today. That's connecting, right? This personal, really, that's culture, right? That's incorporating culture, people into food safety.
Well, I'm going to take a controversial stand here, Tia, as well. So let me see if I understand this correctly. I'm going to throw this out here. Leaders are people too, aren't they?
What?
Yeah. Interesting. Well, and part of that is we don't know what people are going through.
Yeah.
The procurement person in the plant, maybe they have a sick mother who's going through cancer treatment. You have no idea what's going on.
And it can be I remember hearing someone say at IFP last year that we were talking about culture, and someone got up and said that one of their teammates, weren't responding appropriately at work, and he found out that she broke up with her boyfriend. And he kind of said it like, not a big deal. This is what's preventing her from doing this work. And it's like, it's a big deal to her.
Oh, God.
It's a big deal to her that she broke up with her boyfriend, right? And we've all had breakups, and we've all, right, have been in that mood for weeks. For some people, it's years they're in that mood.
Yeah.
So that is important to that person. It doesn't actually matter what it is from your own perspective, because it could matter to you, it could not matter to you. But we're not talking about you. We're talking about them, right? Like, we're talking about them. That if it's about you, then go and do the work.
Which, Tia, it's a really interesting story, because I mean, when we have people come to us and say, gosh, I have someone on my team that needs to go and, like, learn leadership and these soft skills, which is really awesome. We love when people are like, yep, we recognize it. And we're like, and what are you doing?
Right.
Well, that's an important part. I will raise my hand and said I was guilty of this, right? It was they're not doing this and they're having this and they're showing this and they're like, yeah, but that all started with me.
Yeah.
Me as the leader looking at it and going, oh, you know what? I'm making stories up in my head about what I think they're going through or what I think their perspective is about this. And until I start really being more intentional about how I'm supporting them, it's always going to be them. It won't be me. So it's got to be me before it's them.
Yeah.
They're taking the cue from you.
When I think about the future of Catalyst and this business of helping, leaders grow in the food space and helping, push culture forward, I think that it will come to the point that when people reach out to us to help with culture and to help with leadership and help with organizational structure and all those things, they're going to think, wow, I know I'm going to have to do some internal work when they get started. And because 9 times out of 10, if a team is falling apart, the leader owns a large piece of that. And we see it, right? We gather, we do our jobs, and we're able to present that information. But there's going to come a time, I know it in our business, where people are going to say, things are not great here, or I see things moving towards a certain path that I'm not happy about. I need to do some real reflection on what that is and figure out why we're going this way. And I know I'm going to be a part of that. Catalyst can help me figure that out. Like that, when people start coming to us like that, and we do have some people coming to us that say, hey, like, I'm in this new role. I want to make sure that I'm successful. Or, hey, I've been leading this team. They haven't been performing the way that I would like for them to. I need to figure out what's going on with my leadership. We have people come to us and say that to us all the time. I cannot wait until more and more people do that. And they're coming to us to say, hey, like, things are not going well here, or I see that things are not going to go well in the future. I want to start with myself and figure out, how do I help this team get back on track?
Nice. Very, very good summary for our discussion today, which went by super fast. What are kind of your closing thoughts, Jill?
Well, since we brought that this show is about food safety culture, I'd say, culture doesn't change till leaders do.
Yeah.
That's my summary statement on it.
Well,
No, that's great. Yeah, so that influence that we have as leaders in the organization, everybody's always watching. So it's like, Tia has a young child, right? So if one day your child comes up to you and says, oh yeah, well, double damn it, mom, and walks away, the first thing you're doing is turning to your husband and going, where did you learn that? Right?
Yeah. It's funny. Her phrase right now is, what the heck? And I'm like, the first time, right now we just ignore it. She knows we don't like it, but like, what the heck? And I'm like, where did you learn that from? And there's a little girl in her class that has older brothers. Like elementary school age older brothers, right? My daughter's 3, for people who don't know. So they're in preschool. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So right, it happens. Where did you learn it from? What do you even think it means? I guess I haven't even gone into deep conversation with her. Like, what do you even think that means?
What do you think that means? Let me put your website in here so everybody can look everything up.
Oh,
so as we close out here as well, too, any upcoming trainings or events or things you would like everybody to know about?
Our spring cohorts for strategic and boot camp are opening and start in March.
Yes.
And then our leadership summit, the date changed. We were going to have it early February. But really, April is when we keep hearing people say, like, nope, April fits better in their schedules. So it's going to be April 8th.
Yes.
So we'd love to have people there.
Yes. You
so
can sign
good leaders accept feedback and adjust. Interesting.
Always.
Perfect. Well,
Yes.
fantastic chat. Great way to start off the new year. Tia and Jill, thank you very much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Bryan.
thank you.
And
Thank you.
everybody as well here too. I could barely keep up with the comments. There were
I know.
I know,
so-
audience, you all are great.
oh, gold.
Thank you, yes, for
Absolute gold.
contributing.
Yes, absolute. Thank you, everyone. I greatly appreciate it. So with that, we'll keep everybody on time so you can get your Friday off right. But of course, enjoy your weekend. Have a good time out there. Life is a balance, right? It's not all work. So go out there and have some fun. And of course, we'll see you back here next Friday at the same time for the next food safety chat, where I'll bring another group of exciting kick-ass leaders in food safety and culture like Jill and Tia on the show to have a conversation with you. So we will see you then, of course, here on LinkedIn and YouTube. So have a good one, everybody. We'll see you then.